Hello, my name is Yaron Shavit.
And I'm Omri Rose.
And this is Nose Talks, because no one knows anything.
Not because we're Jewish.
Not because we're Jewish. Omri, today I want to talk to you.
What are we talking about?
I'll tell you what we're talking about.
Okay, tell me.
I knew you were going to ask that question. Today we're going to talk about superheroes.
Oh, exciting.
Do you think we've exhausted this superhero thing? Do you think the Marvel franchise has exhausted this whole world of superheroes?
When it comes to films,
When it comes to when it comes to films, not the comic books.
Right. So clearly you have an opinion on this.
I brought my Superman T-shirt special from the dungeon.
Well, we've seen a few movies together, and about the superheroes, specifically movies.
Yeah.
And we've had some different opinions on them.
Yes. I'm not a particular fan of the genre, and the reason I'm not a particular fan of the genre is because I think there's a lot of CGI effects. Yeah. There's a whole world. Yeah. But I'm an actor, so for me, like the characters and the personal relationships and the drama, it's kind of, for me, it's a little lacking. And I understand that people go for the CGI and the effects and that whole world. It's not particularly my genre.
I think at the end of the day, it just boils down to what we're looking for in cinema is a good story, well told, right? Yeah. That is, in essence, what we look for in cinema, right? And that's not to say that we can't have that in superhero movies. I think we can. You know, maybe you disagree with me in general on that specific.
No, I think it's totally possible. There are a few movies that I did enjoy in the genre. Yeah. Like I did enjoy the first Iron Man, and I did enjoy Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. So, and I think some of the things that those two movies and things like Logan or Deadpool, I know you enjoyed as well.
Yeah, Deadpool was fun.
The first one, I think you enjoyed more than the second one.
Yeah.
The things that those movies do so much better, I feel, than a lot of those other superhero movies is, first of all, they take risks, and they make us care about the characters in those films. You know?
I also think that, to me, Guardians of the Galaxy did it and Deadpool did it. They didn't take themselves too seriously.
Well, there's that too. Which
I think is a big thing, especially in a world that's kind of ridiculous. You know, when you look at it in human eyes. I'm human. You know.
Yeah.
So for me, that the fact that there was a humor element added a whole thing where it didn't take itself too seriously. Because we've seen the hero that beats everyone. We've seen that for years. It's not, you can make a superhero. You can make just the Terminator or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back to the '80s action movies, there's Schwarzenegger running out with a big machine gun and 100 guys shooting at him, and no one hits him, and he hits everyone. I mean, it's essentially a superhero movie in a different skin.
Yeah. In a unique universe.
Yeah.
And the question that now is kind of moving forward with that franchise, or with both franchises, is how do they move forward? Have they exhausted it? Are people? Yeah. I mean, people are still watching the movies. Obviously, they're making a lot of money.
Huge money.
But the question is, are people? How long will this last? Does it have an expiry date, or will it keep going?
Here's the thing. For me, I feel like we've pretty much reached the peak now. I mean, I could be wrong. I probably am, but I think we've reached the peak, and we're now searching. I mean, some movies, specifically the DC stuff, is not doing as well, and that's because their stories are all over the place. But we're sort of searching now for interesting ways to tell the stories that we've already seen. Like, we don't want to see another origin movie. How many Spider-Man reboots have we seen?
Yeah, Batman.
And Batman. So what we're at the point, which is exciting, I think, is that a superhero movie is no longer a genre within itself. It's not just that. It's like now we have a superhero horror movie, or a superhero comedy, or a superhero thriller, or
like
western.
Subgenres within the genre.
We're starting to shape it into ways that, like, you know what, a superhero just in and of itself is not guaranteed to sell tickets. We have all these TV shows as well. We have to do something else. We have to have a story. We have to have other elements.
Yeah, I agree. I think like any other industry, it has to change, and it has to evolve, and it has to adapt. We all remember Blockbuster, or ICQ, if you remember, ICQ, Messenger. Everyone used MSN Messenger.
Yeah, MySpace.
So and even Snapchat, industries that don't evolve and they stay stagnant, and they think they found the formula. They just stick to that formula. They die. And I think eventually that's what will have to happen. The CGI, I mean, that keeps it evolving as well, and so people will always be, if they see the same thing over and over again, eventually they'll get exhausted.
Yeah, absolutely, they will. So I think unless it wants to go the way of the Western, which sort of petered out It's gonna have to evolve. And incidentally, we're getting great westerns now. Again, we're sort of exploring the western genre, and it's the same kind of thing. You know, we have to be looking for the interesting angles and the interesting stories on this. I mean, for instance, I'm really excited about the Unbreakable Split sequel. You know, M. Night Shyamalan. You know, Unbreakable I thought was fantastic. You know, and if you really want to see an origin superhero movie done in an interesting way, that's what it is essentially. But you know, he's taking it in an interesting direction.
In a different direction. Yeah. Maybe do you think? It's a weird question to ask now, but I don't know. Do you think, because a lot of things are like coming back? You said the Westerners are coming back and stuff like that. Do you think maybe we have to maybe let it rest and then, you know, I don't know if that's a question to ask now, but if like to start again, to see it 10 years, like let it kind of, you know, because you really literally now have 10 movies a year that are coming with superheroes.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. I mean, if you look at Star Wars, for instance, which the latest Star Wars solo movie really underperformed in the box office for what they were hoping for.
That's an example of something that maybe there had just been too much. They did too many movies.
They did too many of them. They were banking on just this built-in fan base that no matter what would come and see these movies, and just didn't deliver at the end of the day for whatever reason. So I think, you know, our Marvel fans, for instance, they expect a certain thing, and you know, we have to keep on adapting and moving. I mean, they still make a lot of money nowadays, but certainly DC's in a lot of trouble. That audience is not going to come back and see those movies unless they improve drastically. So there is still a cap of something that's got to be good. Yeah.
Why do you think DC is not performing as well as Marvel?
Well, I think the main problem they had is they were trying to emulate Nolan. You know, in the sense that he established this dark, gritty thing, and then they were like, we have to be different from Marvel, so let's follow the Nolan thing and try to make it dark and gritty. But then you have something like Superman in a dark and gritty world, which can be done, but it's trickier. But then you bring in other superheroes, and it's just it creates its own difficulty level. You know, whereas you know you were mentioning before with Guardians and the tongue-in-cheek aspect. Yeah. If you have Superman and Batman in the same universe in the same team, it's a no contest. You know, like Superman can flick Batman, and I'm a huge Batman fan. Like Batman's my guy. You know, I've voiced Batman in an audio series. You know, he's my dude.
It's great. I'll link it down below, by the way. The audio series is great.
At the end of the day, there's no contest unless you're in a more comic book bouncy world where then it makes more sense. But the second you put it in a grounded real world, it's just they can't both be on the same team equals, you know.
You know what? It's funny that you mentioned the Superman Batman. Because to me, the best superhero movies ever was the first Batman with Jack Nicholson.
Okay. Yeah.
That was to me like Jack. Yeah. That the Tim Burton one. And I liked Superman. At some point in my life, I did like the genre.
For sure.
Like I did like the genre.
And Christopher Reeves was a great Superman.
Yeah, amazing. And I didn't care about the technology. And now, even when I look at it now, I can still enjoy the movie, even though I can see that, you know, I can see the studio. You know,
you can see the strings, but it has heart. You know, at the end of the day, and it cared about story. Yeah. You know, it took its time to.
I could identify with the character.
I think CG is one of the problems here. You know, if we rely so heavily on CG, and this is in the little film industry kind of thing going on, you know, these big CG set pieces have to be planned so far in advance that there's no room for flexibility, you know, so it takes maybe a year to design or more some of these big CG set pieces. And so they have to be prepared before the director is shooting the scenes, and then once they're in the editing room, if that scene isn't working anymore, they can't cut it. They've spent already like 6 months, 8 months, and all this money on making the CG scene. It's got to be in there even if it doesn't necessarily serve. So very difficult once you put all the CG in there, and you also lose that physical weight of things.
I think that's actually an interesting point that I didn't actually think, that sometimes they may have put so much money into a certain effect that now to not use it because it doesn't serve the story, it may be secondary to the fact that they have this amazing thing that they created, even if it doesn't serve the plot.
Yeah.
The reason, and even within within sort of more modern day superheroes, the reason that I connected to Iron Man was because I could identify with him. It's a very, very basic thing. Kind of spinning off of that, one of the things that my brother always said is why he hates award ceremonies. Is because they always choose. He's the opposite to me. So he says, I want entertainment.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they always have to choose this, heartbreaking biography of Abraham Lincoln or whatever, or Wolf of Wall Street. He wants, he says, I'm entertained by the Marvel American Pie. To me, people try to emulate American Pie, and that will never be up for any awards. Even though, that's a bit of a spin-off, but there are people that just want to be entertained. I think I'm a bit of an exception, that I really don't care about the effects. They do very little for me.
Entertainment is entertainment, right? We want to be entertained, and you get entertained by one thing, other people get entertained by other things. But that's another argument. Maybe that's for another talk.
That's for another talk.
Should award ceremonies be more fair and?
Yeah, should they be for more genres and not and do they only serve a specific audience and more industry based rather than the general public, which clearly goes more to sort of Marvel and DC films or superhero or comedy. But that's for another time.
I think we've saved the planet.
I think we've saved the universe. Thank you, Omri, for indulging me on this one.
Of course.
We'll be back another time. If you do have topics that you would like Omri and I to discuss, please write in the comment section below.
Anything you want.
Anything you want.
We don't know anything anyway. So.
Yeah, we don't know. We have opinions.
No one knows.
Yeah, we have opinions with no knowledge, which is a great basis.
A great basis.
But thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.